So I'll let you do the bragging.
All right, we got glasses. Okay, so the first athlete, she couldn't be here this evening. Her name is Lauren Almer. She all section this year, champion in the 100 backstroke at section championships. She was also the county champion in the 100 backstroke. She was third place in the 200 IM at sections. She was third place at the state championships in the 100 backstroke and seventh place in the 200 IM. Juliana Engel, our next athlete, was part of our medley relay that qualified for state championships. So Juliana, I'd like to congratulate you. Our next athlete also participated at state championships in the 200 medley relay, Margaret Romano. Our next athlete is not here this evening. She and Lauren are participating in a big championship meet, so I know Lauren's headed to nationals tomorrow morning, and Daniela has a big meet as well this week. Daniela was also a member and part of our medley relay that went up to state championships. Congratulations to Daniela. We have our final athlete this evening, Jordan Barbosa. She was also part of our 200 medley relay that made it up to state championships this year, and we are hoping to bring a whole bunch of girls up there again next year. Congratulations, girls, on a great season. Wanted to mention that these young ladies were part of Section 1, and we won the whole state championships. Section 1 girls won the whole state championship, so congratulations.
Now we're going to hear from our principal, highlights and updates. 426 principals.
As you know, we have a lot of exciting things going on K through 12, but we want to give you a little glimpse from time to time of different levels. And there is so much activity and so much great energy happening at the 4 to 6 level. So we have asked our principals and our administrators at that level just to give you a little taste of what's going on 4 to 6 tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Eckert. It's good to see you all this evening. On behalf of my colleagues, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity, because I think it's fair to say, with transformation now quite a few years old, the 4 to 6 buildings perhaps arguably had the biggest changes of all the buildings throughout that transformation. When you think about our teachers, particularly if you think about 5th and 6th grade teachers who were in a decidedly secondary model and have now transitioned into a very elementary model, that alone was a huge change. What we'd like to show you tonight is a number of the other changes that we've made in our buildings as time has gone on. What you'll see are things that are present in all 3 buildings. They have a little bit different character, obviously, because each building's a little bit different. But we're going to show you some things that basically fall into 2 areas: social and emotional well-being, and academic program, and the accompanying scheduling enhancements and changes that we've made in the buildings during the last several years. And I'm going to start with Mrs. Shelby. Grow up, will you?
Good evening. One of the components in terms of social and emotional is PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. In each of the 3, 4 through 6 elementary schools, it's very important that we look at the social and emotional well-being of our students. During this age, it is really important to have that addressed as well as the academic pieces. In all 3 schools, these are the key elements: defining expectations and routines. And if you look at the sheets that I just handed out, those are expectations and routines of 2 of the buildings we have for all 3. We have to teach the behavior that we want the students to exhibit. We actively monitor the behavior that we ask them to exhibit. We give them a rubric, we go over it with them, we teach them, we have lesson plans of what that looks like, give examples, we model, we acknowledge appropriate behavior, that's positive in PBIS. We review data. So if we're looking at some of the behaviors, and we notice that, for instance, we see a height of activity not following expectations in the hallway, we will reteach the expectations in the hallway. We'll reteach expectations in the cafeteria. So if we find that the data is showing that we need to have some corrective behavioral errors, we will do that, and we use that data to make sure that we are addressing all the issues in the building. So also in front of you is our Tier 1, if you see the arrow, where all the students receive that specific instruction and specific training and specific guidance about the routines of expectations. If, for example, it doesn't work, usually it does, the data says 80 to 90% of the time, students are right on board. But if we see some students that are having some difficulties behaviorally, then we move up to Tier 2, and then we also move up to Tier 3 in terms of students that may have some chronic behavior issues. So we want to address those students as well. Sometimes those students in higher Tier 2 and Tier 3, those usually take up 90% of the administrator's time, but they too deserve to have success at school. And we do everything that we can to make sure that we assist them with supports to be able to function behaviorally in the school. And as you will see throughout the presentation, all 3 schools are addressing this, and then you'll see in terms of the social emotional intelligence, which Benito will speak of in a minute, that is woven through all 3 schools, and that's something that we feel very strongly about.
All right, good evening, board members. First of all, I would like to thank you for the work that you do. I was not able to address you at the last board meeting, but we were appreciative of your work. And in November at Haverstraw Elementary, we focus on gratitude. That's our character trait. So I would like to express our gratitude, because without the resources that you provide, none of this would be happening. So thank you. At Haverstraw Elementary, actually, at Haverstraw and at West Haverstraw Elementary, we are working this year on something really, really exciting. For the 2nd year already, we are working and getting deeper in the training students and families in the area of emotional intelligence. That's a quote that I first saw in a presentation that Mrs. Eckert did one late August. I think you remember Mrs. Eckert, and it caught my eye. It is a quote that really gets to the gut of each and every individual. Because I can tell you whatever I can tell you, I can teach you whatever I can teach you, but if I make you feel in a particular way, that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life. Everything else I said may go, one way in and one way out. But feelings and emotions, those are permanent, those stay, and you know that from your own personal experience. So as I said before, at Haverstraw and at West Haverstraw, we are working on something that we call a sister-school relationship, which is, by the way, working very, very well. We have a great partnership, is that correct, Ms. Scalia? Ms. Scalia is here. Thank you for coming tonight, Ms. Scalia. We have a great partnership. We're doing a lot of work. We've been doing a lot of work already for a year and a half in professional development with our staff members and our parents, because recently we had a really good night with many parents from both schools coming to be trained in the concepts of emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? In essence, is the ability to, first of all, monitor our own feelings, to discriminate between or among those feelings, and then to use that information to make good decisions. Because the goal is to make good decisions based on your feelings and based on how you are feeling at a particular moment, the emotions that you are experiencing. Why do emotions matter? Why do they matter even more than raw knowledge, concepts, ideas, formulas in mathematics? Well, they matter because they affect our decision making, they affect the quality of our relationships with people, they affect our physical and mental health. We know that from experience, right? When we are stressed, we get rashes in our skin and all kinds of bad things. They affect our attention, memory, and learning. When we're under stress, we don't learn as well, we don't learn as much. And if we do, sometimes it goes into short-term memory and it doesn't stay. There's one more, yes. And of course, emotions affect our everyday effectiveness. We've been working with the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. We go to obtain training at Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES, quality training. I must say, do you agree with Scalia that it is really quality training? Very good training, top-notch individuals. You can tell that they work for Yale because they really know what they're doing, and they have a structure in their training which makes sense, which is simple, it is applicable, and it is to the point. So they use what they call ruler, and they have taught us how to do all of those things, and we are in turn teaching our students and families how to do all of those things. In simple terms, recognizing emotions, understanding where they come from, giving them a label. That is an extremely important one. Being able to give a name to an emotion, because it doesn't help when a child says, "I'm just angry." You know, we need to know a bit more. You know, is it frustration? Is it sadness? You know, where is that anger coming from? Is it the physical illness? Expressing those emotions in an appropriate manner. And that is actually an extremely challenging one. How do we teach children to express them in a manner that is socially appropriate? And the regulation is fundamental. And we use this interesting tool, which is the mood meter. Simple terms, it's a quadrant. At the top, red and yellow, all of those emotions are high in energy. Okay, so I am experiencing, if I am in the red or in the yellow, I am experiencing high energy. If I am on the blue and red, I am experiencing low levels of energy. To the right, I am feeling well, I am feeling pleasant. That's the x-axis is the axis of pleasantness. If I am to the left, that means that I am not feeling well, I am feeling unpleasant. So if I am, for example, in the green, that means that I am feeling pleasant, but I have low energy. So I'm feeling at ease, content, and I don't have much energy, right? That exemplifies one of the quadrants. We have been working on developing school charters, class charters, I should say, and school charters with our staff. Charters are different from rules. Rules tell you what you can do and what you cannot do. Charters tell you how you want to feel in your class, in your grade, in your school. And our staff, we actually spend a lot of time working with our staff on developing or finding out what are the emotions that are important for us. At Haverstraw Elementary, the emotions that are important for our staff are the feelings of being supported, connected, motivated, valued, and respected. We didn't get to that point in just about 30 or 45 minutes. We spent several hours working with our staff, really working in teams, and getting down to the true feelings of individuals. After school program, Mr. Roth.
Thank you, Benito. So again, as part of our transformation into 4 to 6 buildings, the decision was made that we would offer a somewhat limited after-school program compared to what was there when we were middle schools. All three buildings have these 6 elements going on in the building, generally once a week with the exception of Homework Club, which is twice a week. In addition to the 6 you see on the screen, our SIP committees in each of the 3 buildings have now identified certain things that they want to provide in addition to these 6, and you have supported that. You're actually voting on some of that this evening, I noticed later on in the agenda. So some of those groups are in addition to these, providing opportunities we think are important to build that social emotional competence that Mr. Herrera was talking about, as well as to kind of complement the academic program that they see during the day. Counseling.
As you know, when we have our annual meeting, one of the things that I have been pushing for, which I'm again grateful for, I'm going to stick with Vito's theme, and that was ours as well, is that we have a full-time school counselor. So I know I sounded like a broken record, so I want to thank you for providing that. And this is one of the areas in terms of social emotional that the full-time school counselor assists us with. So they have a curriculum, and they work with academic development, which includes reinforced positive feelings, so you hear the word feelings a lot today, interests, and the importance of academic success. We also talk about career development, the awareness of personal abilities, their skills, their interests, and what motivates them. And we also talk again about personal social development, character development, identifying and expressing feelings, developing positive feelings of self, and identifying appropriate feelings. So again, our 4th graders, they spend a semester. So every single 4th grader in 4 to 6 goes through this program. And then next year, so in 3 years, every single child will go through this. They work on time management, organization, goal setting, study skills, and then we also, that last bullet, growth mindset, that you have the ability to grow. If you don't say, I can't do math, you can't do math yet. We make sure that they have a positive feeling toward achieving their goals, but we have to change that mindset in terms of what they believe in right now. We have to make sure that they learn that there are possibilities. We talk about 8 dimensions of well-being, and you see some pictures that the students drew, again, in those same 3 areas that we talked about: social and emotional health, occupational health, and they researched 1 dimension of well-being and worked cooperatively in a group to create an informational poster. And these are some examples of the posters. And we have students do self-assessments. So we want them to get to know who they are, and then we want them to know about the possibilities. And this is again the mood meter. So again, like I said, all 3 schools are interwoven in terms of making sure that we look at social and emotional health, and having that school counselor full-time is really helpful in making sure that we have staff members to help us address this as well as staff members. And this was from another school from Haverstraw in terms of their gratitude and thank you all. So also living in a state of being grateful and being present of mind also helps in terms of social and emotional well-being. And the school counselors are working together through 4 to 6, and they're doing a fantastic job. We're really excited about this program.
You might be wondering where this is all happening. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we talked about instituting a new part of the schedule called the WIN period. And that's where all these things, including the counseling in the next 2 you're going to see, that's where those programs are happening. This year, we took the opportunity to structure that time a little bit more around these areas that fit into the social, emotional, and the academic supports. The next one is digital citizenship. Our librarians, Christine and Megan, are taking the ball on this one. and looking at what students are doing online. You all know we've had these conversations before, how important this is and how concerning it is when we don't feel that they have the tools to manage their digital footprint. And so that's where we start. We start with a digital footprint, how they are interacting with the internet. And you can read through this yourself. But our grades 5 and 6 are looking at this. Some students in 5, some 6, everyone will get it by the end of the year. There's lots of resources, there's lots of apps out there that our librarians are tapping into to show students how their footprint is presented in the world. So for instance, we look first at their identity and their image. All of our students are creating an avatar that shows that they can be positive and realistic about their image in the digital world. Next, we're looking at how they are interacting in the internet and the digital world and their netiquette, a new word for all of us, right? Etiquette online and on the net. And so it's okay to check messages at the table. No, it's not. And how do you respond to things like cyberbullying? Well, that's the next area. We look at that in depth. What's appropriate, what's not appropriate, how are you treating the people that you're interacting with on the internet, and how are they treating you? And they have examples that they respond to. You see one of them on the right. And finally, we look at privacy and safety, which is something we're all concerned about all the time. We present our students with scenarios that they respond to. What could happen if you're in this situation? So this is a very broad area. We're trying to kind of zero in on it and make sure students are understanding the effects, the consequences, both positive and sometimes negative, of their presence on the internet. Mr. Herr? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. All right, STEM education, very exciting. We are really enjoying and benefiting from this piece in our schools, in our 4-6 schools. Great work by those 4 individuals there, Mike Brondolo, Nicole Jesse, Steven Ferrara, and Wix there. Really good work that you have done in preparation for the launching of our STEM program. Certainly having those 4 individuals full-time, 1 in each of our schools, is an asset that it cannot be overstated. It is wonderful to happen. And Nicole, you please join me for 1 minute, just in case I get stuck with any of these experiments, because they do really very amazing things. The mission statement of the STEM, as defined by them, I didn't write that, is basically to provide a challenging learning environment in science, technology, engineering, and math, which maximizes individual potential and ensures that the students are well equipped to meet the challenges in the new world around them. It sounds great with my accent. It's really a lofty challenge, but I think we are actually meeting that challenge head on, and I am very excited about it. So our model looks like that. It has 4 pieces, right? Nicole, you want to?
I know his accent's wonderful, but I can probably do this faster. First of all, the 4-6 students receive us for a half a year, each grade level. So we'll see every student in 4-6 building, and we start with our hands-on STEM challenges, the daily challenges. Then we collaborate with our classroom teachers to link the curriculum with STEM. We also have monthly at-home challenges, which brings it home to the families. And then during our win and recess time, we take advantage of that extra time with the kids to work on individual projects. I'm not going to read everything to you.
So yeah, that one is easy. That's actually a very standard cycle that happens in many areas of knowledge, which is there's a problem, we devise a solution, we make a model, we test the solution, works, doesn't work, we evaluate, and we go back all over again. I mean, it's a standard model which is used in STEM, of course. And they're using also in Fieldstone. And this is the best part, right? When we do this, watch that experiment that they're doing. So what are they doing? Sorry. What are they doing there?
So this was a cup stacking challenge. We're trying to build teamwork within our students. A lot of times they do individual work. So this was really frustrating and fun.
Actually, that works in the area of emotional intelligence. We're putting the students to great frustration levels. And they are all going to the red area. Yes, I see. Wonderful, they succeeded. Not very yellow. So that was a fun one. And here we have another one. Come on, move. Somebody moving something? Chris, thank you. Oh no, well, it's all right. What happened here? Do you want to describe?
This was a pretty involved project. This took us a couple of sessions to do with them. Essentially, they had to build a wrecking ball, which of course we accompanied with music while they did this, and knock down as many markers as possible. You can actually see the video on Twitter if you wanted to ever look at it. I believe Amaris Scalia tweeted that out, so.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It was just a little example of using the wrecking ball to knock down the markers, and I will say the ladies beat the gentlemen in my class, so it was pretty interesting to see that the girls excelling in STEM. It's pretty nice.
And this is working very well. You guys are beginning to really work with our teachers, right? In cross-curricular experiments, we seem to have the problem with the access request. We cannot see that one. That was the best. The slow motion video was a really good one. Can you describe that first?
So what we did was with our, mostly with our 6th grade classes, we did the 5 story elements. So this was the cross-curricular integration. And what we did after we discussed the 5 elements of the marshmallow incident, we let them build their own catapults, and then they launched marshmallows all around. So in this video, in slow motion, it was really cool. You got to see them hitting the target. It was pretty amazing. Yeah, I actually just did this again the other day, and we let the kids kind of just throw the marshmallows all around the STEM lab. It really looked like it was snowing. It was very cool. Okay, that's it. So this was an inspiration from the Macy's Day Parade. We are reading another book here, Balloons Over Broadway. Mr. Farrar actually developed a really nice metric conversion to integrate the math. And then with our scales and ratios, it's a very cool project. So we're, bringing the kids in with their math teachers to do this, and then the STEM pieces, they design their own balloons. So,
Lots of connections.
We're really trying to connect all around. So Flinker, Ms. Scalia, do you see you up there? Flinkering is neither floating nor sinking. You're kind of hanging out. We're playing with the idea of buoyancy. So here they had to develop something that would neither sink nor float, and they had to use various weights and different materials. So this is definitely putting people in the red when we do this. But we had the 1 minute 45 second flink, which was pretty exciting. But when they get it, they are so excited. And I think this might be our last connection, but this one connected to our science unit. Talking about air masses and influencing weather. So here we're teaching the children how to use triple beam balance scales, and then giving them a lab to show that, you can't measure the air in a room, but you can certainly tell if a balloon has increased in its mass when you add air to it. So, that was our science. And these videos, they were working for us yesterday. So we also are incorporating some coding into our program. And here is, what you would see would be these little mini robots called Spheros, where they'll block code, different commands, change color, turn right, headings, speed, and things like that. So that's what you would see. We'll put this up on our STEM site so they could access the videos. Yes. Mm-hmm.
A lot of fun activities, right? Lots of fun in the classroom and really lots of connections. Really, really good stuff. Let's see, is there another slide? At home challenges. The apples ahead, yeah, that was a fun one, right? Yeah. And protect the pilgrims. Students were asked to design and build a structure to protect the pilgrims. so connecting social studies. So lots of connections, really, really good, really, really good. And then you have a wonderful STEM newsletter, which is really, really full of links and information and things that teachers can do and families can do. And then our after-school STEM program, we have one club in the afternoon, also called the STEM Club, in which you do like a scale down, because it only meets once a week, so you do some activities in that, some activities. So in summary, STEM is everything, right? It's more than just flashlights and semiconductors. It is a process, and that's what we're trying to really convey to our students, that the thought process of tackling a problem, finding a solution, testing it, and doing it all over again, that's what the STEM is all about. So basically, it's the cycle of life, I would say. And that's about it. Writing instruction, Mr. Ross, your call.
Thank you, and not to forget about some of the things that are happening in class outside of the things that we talked about in WIN and STEM. We've been looking at data, of course, constantly. What is out there that we need to address for our students? And what we found through a lot of research is that writing is an area of greatest need across the country in schools, particularly at our level, and moving up even into Fieldstone here. So we have connected with Angela Stockman, who is working right now with our 6th grade and going to be going to our 5th grade teachers later in the year. And she's modeling exemplar lessons with writing in our classes, in our school, 3 schools, with our teachers observing. And then after that, they analyze the lesson, they brainstorm ideas, they kind of have a professional colloquium to decide what is it that we can implement from this and move forward with it with our students in writing. We expect to see great gains throughout K through 12 over the course of several years, moving from now forward in writing for all of our students. So those are some of the areas that we're working on in 4 to 6. As I said before, lots of changes. When you think of Farley, Haverstraw, Willow Grove as middle schools, they're completely different buildings now as 4 to 6 buildings. And you can see that in some of the things we've shown you today. So thanks to everyone for presenting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for the principals and for the instructors coming tonight and giving that great presentation. Mr. Herrera, I'm not sure if you're going to be giving some EQ tests, but I want a chance to study before you do. Actually, we had something back in the day. We had the mood ring, if you remember. We were on the right track, but it didn't always work, you know?
I just have to add, if you see the faces of the children at that level, especially in their STEM activities, there's not one that's not smiling, engaged. Just thank you for the work that all of you do in that area, and we know just how important it is in today's society that we do provide those opportunities for our students, and they can be more excited. I know that we hear, I know you guys hear from parents, I hear from parents, Chris, from students, about how much they enjoy their time in those STEM labs and the integration and the work that you're doing with our teachers beyond those STEM labs. So thank you for all of that work and the time that you have put in this summer to get those labs up and running, and they look phenomenal.
Okay, moving on. Do we have any old business? Okay, Mrs. Gaddy, please.
I just have one item. I want to call to your attention today that we got an advocacy alert from NYSSBA about the bill that's going forward in the Senate from Senator Murphy and Assemblywoman Galiff that addresses the concern about voter approval by limiting the exclusions to the BOCES capital projects. As you all know, Mrs. Zuckerby and I both sit on BOCES. I sent this morning to each one of you and asked you to please send an individual letter, but can we send a letter on behalf of the board as well? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Gaddy, any other old business? Okay, moving on to Correspondence? Seeing that there's no correspondence, we'll move on to public comment. Board of Education welcomes comments for our community. If you wish to address the board, please sign it now. Okay, so seeing that there's no comments, move on to retirement. Okay, Mr. Fernandez, would you like to read that?
Yes. Whereas Ms. Patricia French has served the North Rockland Central School District with dedication for a total of 15 years, and whereas she has submitted her resignation for retirement purposes, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby accepts with deep regret the resignation of Ms. Patricia French, teacher aide, effective December 21st, 2018, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education wishes Mrs. French and her family much happiness in the future.
Yes, can I have a motion to accept? Okay, Mr. Hernandez, and second by the whole board. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to Mr. French. Patricia. Congratulations on your retirement. Moving on to the consent agenda. Before I read this, I just want to let everyone know that these are items that we've already worked on in our workshop. We had a chance to identify them and determine how we were going to respond. So the rest of the agenda is going to be under this consent agenda. Use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective time and use by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may do so, indicate that the item will be transferred to the regular agenda for consideration and a separate vote, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. May I have a motion on the consent agenda? Mrs. Eckman. Second by Mr. Kraus. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay. So, take your time, we'll take a moment. Let us know how things went out. Okay, we're going to adjourn into executive session for a personnel matter, and we will not be taking any action. So, can I have a motion to adjourn? Mrs. Zuckerby, second by Mr. Fernandez. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all very much for coming out tonight. Yeah.